we have the ability to get a vaccine and help out our world. Amen.
Thank you. I can remember when I joined the Navy, nobody asked me if I wanted to take the shots or not.
Yeah.
As far as I know, they're not getting any options.
Yeah, they are. Well, it was always mandatory.
I think are mandatory too.
Yeah.
I think they just announced.
Oh, well, we got the 50-50 going. I want to introduce visiting people, John and Brenda Hewitt.
Great.
Welcome,
Welcome.
Glad you're here. Thank you.
You can say.
All right.
Stan, do you have anything in the Rotary Minute?
Yeah, I do. Let me dig something up here really quick. You guys, we got a couple things. First, an advertisement that the district conference is coming up next month. So, get on it, guys. Hotel reservations need to be made. We'd love to see a bunch of you up there to witness the fantastic audio visual that I'm taking care of. There was something in here. You guys know what this is, right? This is Dick's favorite magazine. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a good
Johnny's
magazine.
seed catalog?
Seed catalog. It's not a seed catalog or a hunting supply book, okay? Here we go. From our current president, President Shaker, from India. He says he's a shaker and he will be a mover. He likes to play on his name. He wants to shake things up. His goal is to bring Rotary's membership from the 1.2 million, which it's been for a couple decades, up to 1.3. That's just 100,000. That's not many. So he says in part of his message here at the beginning of the magazine, each of you is a Rotary brand ambassador. And all the wonderful work done by Rotarians around the world needs to be shared outside the Rotary community. Use social media to tell your friends, colleagues, and relatives the stories of service above self, which means as Rotarians, even if you don't do social media, it would be really good if you went on and liked the First Flight Rotary page so that people that are stalking you will see that you like that page. I don't do Facebook much. I do Instagram, and I think we'll get an Instagram account for the club here pretty soon. We're trying to get it so that we post videos of the meetings the day after the meeting, so that the people that can't be here can still see it, and it's things that you guys can pass on, because we have an exciting, stinging presentation today.
We do.
Killer. It was a long time.
I'm sorry. He thought about it for a long
Kind of
time.
sounded like a buzz, so that's okay. So things like that you can share to get other people interested, because Shaker's idea, and every Rotary president that I remember in my 15 years of Rotary has talked about each member bringing in somebody else. And that's, Shaker is adamant that sometime during the year that you bring and introduce somebody to a Rotary, maybe not a meeting, but a Rotary gathering. You don't have to bring in a member, just introduce somebody to Rotary. So you guys just, are they Rotarians? Are you guys Rotarians?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We're really interested.
There's some great clubs in Central North Carolina. There's some wonderful people out there. We're just out here in the sticks. I mean,
No, you haven't seen the sticks.
Oh. I was raised in Kansas. I know the six. I know several of them by their first name. That's all I got.
I have one announcement to make and an award to give. John, John.
Oh, buddy.
Thank you.
Paul Harris. That's your second?
My second.
Your second, cool.
All right.
All right, congratulations and thank you.
I knew I should have had my fifth, and it was awarded last year,
Yeah?
and somehow between transferring to here and leaving the other club,
Oh,
never saw it.
we'll find it.
Yeah, I figured. But anyway, we have an awful lot of Paul Harris members, and this is people who continue to contribute to the organization in order to help other people. So it's really cool. All right, Sergeant of Arms, have anything today?
Yes. Since Stan has already gone through the preparing actually, I can avoid that for.
Yay! You guys owe me.
I got something from a very old friend of mine on the internet. And it's a little humorous, so I thought I'd read it to you. And I'm not going to try to emulate the attempt, the poor attempt at Japanese dialect here. I'm not, this is kind of long enough to know how poor it is. And the subject is, I love this Japanese doctor. Question, doctor, I've heard that cardiovascular exercise can prolong life. Is this true? And heart only good for so many beats, and that's it. Don't waste time on exercise. Everything wears out eventually. Speeding up heart not make you live longer. It's like saying you extend life of a car by driving faster. Want to live longer? Take a nap.
Jim is happy to hear that.
Question, so I reduce my alcohol intake. Oh no, wine made from fruit. Fruit very good. Brandy distilled wine. That means they take water out of the fruity bit, so you get even more of the goodness that way. Beer also made of grain. Grain good too. Out of it up. Question, what are some of the advantages of participating in a regular exercise program? Can't think of one, sorry. No pain, very good. Aren't fried foods bad for you? You're not listening. Fried foods and vegetable oil. How about getting more vegetables be so bad? Question, is chocolate bad for me? You crazy? Oh, cocoa beans, another vegetable. It's best feel good food around. Is swimming good for your figure? If swimming good for your figure, explain the whale to me. Is getting in shape important for my lifestyle? Hey, round is also a shape. Well, I hope this has cleared up any misconceptions you may have had about food and diet. And remember, finally, Japanese doctor summed up. Look, mister, life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in an attractive and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in sideways, beer in one hand, chocolate in the other, body thoroughly used up, totally worn out and screaming, woo-hoo! What a wonderful life! Eat whatever you like because you will still die. Don't allow motivational speaking to deceive you. The inventor of the treadmill died at the age of 54. The inventor of gymnastics died at the age of 57. The world bodybuilding champion died at 41. The best footballer in the world, Maradona, I don't know the name, died at the age of 60. But the KFC inventor died at 94. The inventor of Nutella brand died at the age of 88. Imagine, cigarette maker Winston died at the age of 102. Then Better Volsky, I don't quite understand this one, died at the age of 116 in an earthquake. And Henry C. Cognac inventor died at 98. How did these doctors come to the conclusion that exercise prolongs life? The rabbit is always jumping up and down, but it lives for only 2 years. And the turtle doesn't exercise at all, lives 400. So take some rest, chill, stay cool, eat, drink, and enjoy your life.
Well done.
Go Turtles.
Who's going to handle happy dollars today?
The happiest person in the world.
Happiest person in the room.
Let's get some money. I've already been taking money.
You're happy over here because you don't have a $4,000 water bill, right? There's more to that story.
I'm always
Oh,
happy.
yeah.
I'm always happy. I better get money though.
He probably went fishing over this night.
I did, but I'm not happy for that.
How'd that work out?
But on a fishing note, I will throw one in there because I caught something I've never caught before, never even thought about catching it on lure. But I was out there Monday morning, and for the past month or so, there have been a ton of squid at the end of the pier. So squid, this guy came up, one of the guys that's regular at the pier with this little lure, throws it out there, and they're like on it. He caught about 35 squid in probably 5 to 10 minutes.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, he handed me the rod. I caught about 5 of his 35. I just toss it out there. So somewhere along the way, there's going to be some squid.
Did you eat it?
I didn't know it was all his.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
What would you,
35?
Yeah.
how would you,
There's a calamari there.
how would
Yeah,
you
well,
prepare it?
What's that?
How would you prepare
Calamari.
Pan sear it,
Yeah.
fry it,
Yeah.
boil it, then fry it.
What was the lure?
I don't.
Chop it up and fry it and do
it? A
somebody
little,
else.
Yeah.
a little,
So several of you have heard, but fortunately, this morning I was in a fender bender. The first one I've had since high school. But fortunately, the car's fine for the most part. It's going to need a little work. And nobody was injured.
how's the other guy's car?
Not injured at all. I got hit by a Jeep.
Oh.
So she had a big, brush guard and all. Dented her license plate a little bit.
You might get a ticket.
Whose insurance is going to pay?
Theirs.
Theirs?
I did break. I
I am happy because I am here.
There you go. We're happy that you're here too.
That is good.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm
No,
sorry.
I'm finished.
No.
We're going to take all your money.
So in the second part of that, since I jumped up, there's kind of a Taylor family tradition, and today broke that a little bit. We'll see, as long as the insurance pays out. So in my immediate family, until today, we've never wrecked unless, if it's our fault, it's a nice, expensive car. My sister's first car wreck was with the brand new Corvette. And if they hit us, they don't have insurance. So fortunately, she had insurance.
Wow.
$1 for my cousin and his wife visited us for a few days.
Welcome.
We went up to Corolla through Duck and it had absolutely zero traffic.
Whoa.
Whoa.
That's gotta be like a
Yeah.
fly.
I'm like, and all back. And we went by the Wildlife Center, which we hadn't been to for a while. It's really a great movie about the duck hunting and the hunting lodges. And the new Maritime Museum is open there. As you probably remember, the young man who runs it, Channel came and talked. He was up there. And then best of all, we went and ate barbecue at the old barbecue place in the old park.
Cool.
Nice.
I have one for our guests.
Glad you're here, Brian.
There.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Brad.
Putting up with your cousins. I had to move far enough away that they wouldn't come and see me. All of mine are west of the Mississippi. And for the club, we're doing pretty good. We need to reach out to people that we haven't seen in a while and start dragging them back in. It's good to see we're moving forward. There was something really important, but I can't remember what it is.
We'll take an hour anyway. When you think of it, just stand up.
Yeah, I'll send you
We'll
all
stop
an email.
anything we're doing. Anybody else?
So,
I think anytime you forget, you gotta put $1 in the cart.
yeah.
Yeah, I already did.
I understand, it's great to see you guys. Thank you for doing the Rotary today. How long you guys staying in town?
Probably be here about tomorrow.
They
So you
came
got
out
here
Monday.
Monday.
So we've had a
Had a
nice
great week,
visit.
so.
Yeah.
Successful brew day last Thursday. I brewed a pale ale. So that was a good thing.
A lot of samples.
Yeah, got 5 pounds of it, so, made a mistake of drinking after it becomes wort, so after your first bowl, it becomes wort. Made a mistake of drinking you have to drink a craft beer, that's not rich. So, went to the fridge, had 0 craft beers except for Sam Adams Boston Lager, and it's not craft beer in my book. So I drank a Hop Slam double IPA, 12% alcohol at 9:30 in the morning. Messed me up.
I guess.
Drink some beer, people. I certainly could drink some beer, so I had to give Barbara's help.
It was a good day for
It was actually abrupt to finish up. So. No more double IPAs at 9:30 in the morning.
Okay, if there are no more. We have a program today from our immediate past president, who is going to talk about, what are you talking about today?
Bees.
Bees.
BBs.
Bees, bees.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know he put this together.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be natural.
It'll be good, probably. And if not, y'all can boo me. I'm probably used to that by now. I'll tell you what, if you want to just share that bad boy, or maybe I'll put this on Cora and they can get her response to mine. Hit that back.
What's going on?
Here, hit the use slideshow on the upper left. That's probably it. Oh, it's thinking. It's thinking. Do I just hit the forward button or do I hit the space?
Should be either one if it's going to come up at all.
It doesn't have any stupid timing thing on it, does it?
Well, I don't think so.
It was more appreciated.
Why can't I get
Like 4 anyway.
Why can't I get
I don't know. I tell you what.
I can't even get it to move. Can't even get back to the Zoom screen. I can't get my,
I don't know enough about.
Just have to talk.
Well, I'm just gonna talk. Wow.
you talk while I mess with
And I
you.
have to apologize because I'm a slight bit on the ADD side, so I'm gonna be all over the place. And that's one of the things that I love so much about PowerPoint. They keep me on track. And my track still runs a little bit. So keeping bees, apiculture is kind of the more scientific term for keeping bees. And there are thousands upon thousands of species of bees in the world, but only a few of them. I think only about 20 or 30 actually make honey. So, there is a species out, it's somewhere, I think, in Asia that don't sting. So I'm not sure why we're not making those bees make honey for us. My only guess is they don't make much honey. But it might be worth it if you didn't have to put on a suit and go mess with them, which some people do.
Yeah, there you go.
So I have once gone into one of my hives without anything. And it was a few years ago, my first hive, and they were so gentle. They would let me do anything. I only had one bee ever out of that whole group that ever buzzed me and said, get away.
Tell me
So,
when to move it and I'll go to the next slide.
all right, so let's go ahead and switch over. Maybe. All right, so eating honey. And I say eating honey probably predates what we have as far as historical record. And the reason I say that is some of the earliest records of man, paintings on cave walls show people grabbing a hive and stealing it. So, who knows how long people have been stealing honey from bees. But we've cultivated them for about 9,000 or 10,000 years. So the Egyptians were the first people, and most of the time they would grow them in pots, so like clay pottery, and they didn't really keep the bees well. And I say that when they went and took the honey, they pretty much destroyed the hive. And so the first person to try to pretty much figure that out was an American pastor named Lorenzo Langstroth. Let's go ahead and kick one over. So the hive that you know of today, when you see bees, that's what we call a Langstroth hive. Now there's a few other ways, but he really put a lot of things that were coming together on how to make a setup so that you could take the frames out. Prior to that, they just let the bees do the thing in a pot, and if they busted the pot or just reached in there and grabbed the honey, or they would have these boxes, and then the bees would glue it all together. It's called propolis. So they have to take it all apart and tear the comb up and everything to get the honey. If you ever heard the term bee space, they kind of figured out in about the early to mid 1800s that if you give bees about a half an inch, they won't cross that bridge with the glue that they make, which is called propolis. They'll cross it with honeycomb. And then you can just scrape it off or whatever. There is a lot of honeycomb that you lose in a hive. For whatever reason, in their little bee minds, they're just putting comb all over the place. Some colonies do a really good job and keep it between the lines. Some colonies are like John Polk. They're very organized. They put it in a straight line, and then some of them are like me, and we're kind of all over the place. And so, like for mine, my two hives that I have right now are a little more on my side, so they're kind of sticking stuff all over the place. So I'm scraping it off and keeping it. Hopefully I'll make a few candles out of it. They don't have to be white.
Oops, sorry.
That's all right. Everybody saw it. A lot of people paint different colors of their boxes. So we're going to think inside the box. And so you can see there's quite a few little components to this. And I've got a picture and I'll blow it up a little bit more. Go ahead and skip one more. But if you're talking about bees, you got three kinds of bees, and everybody knows the queen. She is the queen. She gets the most press. And you got the drones, and probably the least talked about, and rightfully so. And then you've got the workers. So I'm going to tell you about bees right now. The queen. She's kind of a hussy. So in the beginning, so each bee has their own time from the time the eggs laid until the time they come out. The queen's fast and hard. She's out in about 16 days. The first thing she does is she goes and stabs her sisters. The queen can sting more than once, so she doesn't lose everything. But usually there's several different what we call queen cells, and the first queen out goes and kills the rest of them, and she's the queen. If two get out, then it's a fight to the death usually. And if you're unlucky, you have no queens because they kill each other. If you're really lucky, they'll get along and you'll have two queens, which happens in about 5 to 10% of hives sometimes. So yeah, occasionally there'll be two queens in there. I haven't had one of those, but I can. They actually make them so places up north, like Alaska, they'll actually set the hive up to have two queens, and there's a big benefit to that, and it's called honey. So their pollen season is fast and hard, and then it's frozen again. So the queens make brood, and so they want to have a lot of brood, a lot of bees to get as much pollen as they can so they can actually get honey. So she comes out, she goes and stabs her sisters, and then she goes off to have sex with about 20 other of the drone bees. She gets, her eggs get fertilized, or she actually stores the semen in a little specialized sack. She flies back, and then her life gets really boring because she loses most of her eyesight. Queens are, for the most part, blind. And then all she does, the only thing she does is lay eggs from that point forward. So she has a really good about 2 or 3 weeks. And then she's kind of the drones.
So what happens to the husband?
Well, that's where we're going to talk about the drones. They're not husbands. They're like short-term booty calls. The drones, they're kind of like that guy. So I said the queen, she's out in 16 days. Worker bees are usually around 21. Drones are like your, 18-year-old surf bomb. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. They don't emerge for 24 days. And then when they get out, they do they try to do one thing, and maybe sometimes they do, but all they pretty much do is eat and try to have sex. That's it. When he does have sex, he dies.
He dies.
So they might be one of the few animals that are really hoping to have sex and die. They're hoping that they don't come home. So he flies out. He goes and they'll hang out in groups, drone groups. So they go hang out with other guys throughout the day, trying to have sex. If a virgin queen flies by, then it's on. They're flying after her, trying to die. The workers have the best life. And we're going to flip me one more.
Do they get to have sex? No.
They don't. It's like, do you have sex and die, or do you live an interesting life? You could think of them maybe like nuns. They do really good things, but there's not a lot of sex or any sex in there. So bees, like when you think about men and versus women, you think of XX and XY. Well, bees they work on a little bit different genetic system. They're what we call haploid, diploid. So if the queen, she has these eggs and she can pop them out into each of the little honeycomb spaces, she can fertilize them, or she doesn't have to. If she fertilizes it, it's a female. If she doesn't, it's a male. So fertilized, it has a duplicate set of chromosomes. If it only has one set, it's a boy. Kind of deficient a little bit, I guess. But y'all knew that anyway. So any egg that's fertilized can be the queen. But most of them, 99.99% of them, are going to go on to become workers. And go one more. So I want to think. So when you look at in the organism level, we think of the bees, but really the organism is the colony, or most people say hive, but if you look, scientifically, you're going to say colony. So the whole group of bees, the drones, the queen, the brood, everything in there, that's a colony, and that's one organism. So how do bees reproduce? Well, they swarm. So usually in a period of an intense honey flow or pollen and nectar flow, they got a lot of goods coming in. What they will do is they'll start sometimes getting ready to swarm. They'll raise a queen, and then right before she comes out of that queen cell, the old queen and about half the bees take off. And when I say take off, when they come out of that hive, there's 20,000 bees at once. And they fly off, and she's already fertilized, she's ready to go. They set up a new colony. This colony they flew from has a virgin queen, so she comes out, kills her sisters, hangs out for a few days, gets ready to go have sex, fly off, 5 days to a week and a half later comes back. Then she starts laying her eggs, and they're set up, and they go off. So now you have, instead of one colony, 2 colonies of bees. Now, if you just had workers, let's say the queen dies, she flies out and she sees the boy, she's ready to have sex, and a bird comes by, she's gone, which happens. About 15-20% of the time, the queen won't come back. So a good percentage of the time when they split, a hive that doesn't have a queen, that makes a new queen that needs to go off and do her thing. So there's only workers, but they're females, right? I mean, they technically should be able to lay, right? And they can. Worker bees can actually lay, but remember, they don't get to have sex. So they only have unfertilized eggs. And what do you get when you lay an unfertilized egg? A drone. So they can only lay drones. Yeah. That actually happened in one of my colonies this year. Fortunately, I had another one, so I can chat a little bit more about that at the end. Y'all want to hear about it? So swarm, you hear about a bee swarm, but that's it. Now, when they're swarming, when they're you see them, and there's bees on a football's worth of bees sitting on a tree. They're gentle. They have nothing to guard. They're going to huddle up around the queen. You can actually go up there and just grab them. And you've probably seen on YouTube or Facebook where they've got people driving around. There's 50,000 bees flying in their car or something. They probably had a swarm that got out, but those bees, unless you mash them or something, they're not going to sting you. They're at that point about as gentle as bees get, because their only goal is to get the queen to somewhere and set up shop. So we've already talked about how they make a queen. Basically, when they get to the point where they need to make a queen, they'll make a different type of cell. So most of your bees, drones, and workers are in a horizontal, slightly tilted upward part of the comb. The queen, they'll actually make vertical. So she'll be up and down, and she'll be about they're about that long. Difference between any fertilized egg can be a queen until they get bee bred. So there's a special kind of stuff that comes from the head of the bee. It's called royal jelly. The queen only gets royal jelly. All eggs and young larvae get royal jelly until they get to be about 3 or 4 or 5 days old. Then they let them eat cake, comment, it becomes, you get to eat bee bread, which is basically pollen. All right, guys, you're off of this good stuff. So she flies off, we know about her. Go ahead.
Have I missed one?
Did I go, I was gonna say, go up one. There we go.
Oh,
So we got the bee. So here's the worker. And the worker really has a cool life. Now, how long do bees live? The queen, anybody want to hazard a guess? How long can she live? Obviously, if she flies out 5 days after she hatches and the bird gets her. But left to her own devices, and let's say you want to see a queen, anybody want to hazard a guess? Month? You
3
said the
months.
month. Look, what do you say?
3 months.
3 months. Year? Get closer.
3 weeks.
Nah. You're close of one. Queens can live 3 or 4 or 5 years. Now, they don't have that egg laying ability. So really beyond, many beekeepers kill their queen every year and have the hive make a new queen because they're going to be at their peak of laying brood. And the more bees you have, the more brood you can lay, the more bees you have, the more honey you have. So in reality, 1, maybe 2 years, and then if you're a beekeeper, you don't want that queen anymore because she's not going to be able to produce enough brood for you to get honey. How long do drones live? Well, let's go back up. How long do workers live? Who said 3 weeks? All right, 3 weeks. So as a general rule, workers live about 3 weeks. So all this we're going to talk about in the life of a worker, this happens over about a 3-week period. Unless they're a special kind of bee called the winter bees. So they kind of do a little thing with their bees. I'm not sure what they do, but they make bees that will last through the winter. So the bees that make it to February, March, they've been alive since October, usually. Drones, how long do they live? Days,
Weeks.
weeks.
Have sex.
Who knows? They live until they have sex. Eventually, so when it starts to get close to winter, right? What do the drones do? They eat and they try to have sex. Well, when it gets close to winter, the colony doesn't want them. So all the worker bees will kick them out. There'll be a day about September, October, I'll come out with 50 drones laying, trying to figure out what's going on with life or death on my deck because all the worker bees have said, you good for nothing, get out. You don't eat our groceries no more. So the workers, we're going to talk about the ones that live. We're not going to talk about the special case bees. So they get born and then they become a nurse bee. And basically they're secreting this royal jelly. They can't really fly. They're just feeding and raising the bees. After that, I call them a builder because they start to fly, they start to forage, but somewhere between when their goal is just to be bringing stuff in, they actually have their most, they're at their most capacity to build comb. And so these swarms that are flying around, they got a lot of these bees that are just kind of on the tail end of being a nurse bee. They can make honeycomb like it's going out of style. And when I say they'll make a chunk of honeycomb like that in a day. I mean, I've gone in there 5 days later and they've got 4 frames filled out. They're just amazing at making honeycomb. And that's what they need to do because they're flying off. They need places for her, the queen, when she's successful, to come back and lay. And then they're foragers, and they will literally work themselves to death. Not like people in 2021. These gals are hard workers. And they will fly until they physically can't fly any longer and die out trying to get pollen or nectar back to the colony. Go one more. Let's see where we are now. Probably. So everybody knows about honey, but there are several different products of the hive. And I would say today, people that have, say 100 to 300 colonies, they probably don't make their money on any of these. They make their money on splitting their hives and selling bees, because what we call a new hive, a new colony that has typically 3 or 4 frames with them, sells for about $160 to $200 and something each. So if you have 300 hives and you can maybe sell $50 worth of honey, or you can split them, then all you got to do is worry about your bees and sell them new colonies of bees. So there's a market for that, and or raising queens. Wax, so your honeycomb, if you melt it down and clean it up, you can make candles out of it, or anything else that you use wax for. That, I was talking about the bee space and how they used to the bees would just cement everything together. That's called propolis. And like many things, there are claims on propolis, from keeping the wing up to curing cancer to fixing diabetes. So people eat it. It's edible. I'm not really sure it does any of those things, but
Have you tried?
I haven't. And then there's pollen, and pollen's actually a really good source of protein. And because bees don't, when you get your cars turning yellow about April here, that's all usually pine or oak pollen. That's about 8 to 10% protein. Bees are looking for like 20, 30% protein. So they're not even messing with that. That's if they're eating pine pollen, they're hard up big time. So it also is your pollen, so a lot of people use that to help with allergies, things like that. So these are the kind of things that you can get from the hive, besides the bees themselves. One more. All right, so we're going to go back to this, and I'll knock it out relatively quickly, because usually you want your colony to set up on something. Now mine's on the 3rd level deck, so I don't have to worry about a stand. I just put mine on a couple of 2x4s. You typically have a bottom board. All of your boxes will sit on that. So the deep boxes are about 10 inches deep, and most people use those for brood. So when they're the part of the bees that are in there that are making the queens in there, she's laying eggs. Usually people will go 1 or 2 deep, and then they'll put something called a queen excluder. And that's one of the things that Langstroth kind of worked with and developed as well. And the queen's a little bit bigger than the workers. So if you put a board, usually today it's plastic or metal, that has a certain size hole in it, the workers can get through, but the queen can't. So why would you want that? Well, everything above that is just honey. So they're not going to there's not going to be baby bee bits when you spin it out. So you'll get to a point where you decide, okay, this is enough spot. The bees have their own space. Everything above that is mine. And that's a good spot to be at. Now, I just have deeps myself. Some people have mediums, which are about 6 or so inches, or short, which are about 4 inches, which means the frames are smaller. Anybody want to guess why you'd want a smaller frame?
Limit the number of bees? I don't know.
Honey is heavy. When a medium box full of honey probably weighs about 80 pounds. So if you get a deep box, you're probably talking about 110 pounds. So that's not really fun to carry around. My setup is I'm just going to bring a few frames down at a time anyway. And I don't want to have a bunch of different sizes of stuff. So I just have deeps. Then you have some sort of inner cover, which just, sits on the top, kind of gives them a little breathing room. And sometimes if you see this little notch in there, they can get out through that. So they have another entrance. And then something over the top, so you don't want it to be raining on your bees. You won't have bees in there very long; they'll leave. So that's a Langstroth hive, and it's this design. There's about half an inch between each of these boxes that keeps them from gluing them all together. All right, let's flip to the next one. Everybody loves honey. Now, I have chickens too, which is a common thing. We got chickens and my wife said, oh, we'll help you, I love eggs. When I brought home some bees, well, I caught mine actually, but she said, I'll help with the chickens, but I ain't touching them. She's definitely afraid of insects. So she said, that is all you. I'll eat the honey, but I don't want none of that. So if you see this kind of lighter color, there's a cap on there. When the bees, they're putting in nectar and then they're drying it out. And it has to get to a certain thickness before they'll cap it. How long will capped honey last? So I got it forever. Anybody gonna second that?
I'll second, yeah.
Second. They have, I said the Egyptians, they found honey in the pyramids and it's still good, like 5,000 years later. No. Oh yeah. Honey lasts forever. Unless something gets into it, particularly moisture, if it stays dry enough, and we use in the medical field honey sometimes as an antibacterial because it's the osmosis, if you're familiar with that word. It's just so concentrated, it can kill things. Nothing will grow in honey if you just do straight honey. One of my slides earlier, I was talking about we know that people have been eating honey for 10,000 plus years. We were kind of slow to the game to figure out that we could brew honey. Yeah. And John, you can't answer. Anybody want to give me what we call fermented honey? Mead. Yeah. Yes. I shouldn't have let y'all go too. That's a big thing in New Zealand, right?
Actually, there's a meadery in Richmond, so I found out.
Yeah. Have you ever done mead?
No, you won't give me 5 pounds of honey.
I'll get you 5 gallons of honey, but it's from Missouri. So mead is really good, by the way. But we've only been doing mead about 2,700, 3,000 years. With all respect, that's about as long as we've been doing beer. We probably started just realizing that we could ferment things and not die from it. So, but to get it, you basically scrape that cap layer off. A lot of times I have like a big centrifuge, spin it off, and then it collects and pours off. And move one more slide forward. And that's B101. Gosh, I could talk for 5 hours.
Oh, you're so good.
Thank you. What kind of bee is this?
That's a
This is a yellow jacket.
No, that's a yellow jacket. Commonly, yes.
Jay, if you ever get tired of being a veterinarian, you could make a living, I think, giving this lecture to high school students.
Yeah.
I think they'd find it very entertaining.
All of the sex talk.
Have sex and die.
I might get paid if I just push the have sex and die part. Subliminal messaging, maybe?
Good job.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
If y'all have other questions about these, just text me after the meeting.
Who's got the results of the 50-50?
Yep. We've got to. George is gonna
Okay.
have one more. Folks.
I like to have one. They have it at the farm market here. I'm just getting there, but I'd like to get it on some money.
Okay. All right, read the last 4 of the first 50. 5, 2, 4. 5, 2, 4, 4. Where is there? Oh, yeah.
5, 2, 3, 4.
5, 2, 4, 4. Yeah.
We already have a winner over there.
I was close. They got it.
Too late, buddy.
Jared, draw one of these. Read your second one. I'm sorry. 5281.
Oh, I got it.
All
right.
Whoa.
All right, and now read your last one.
5278.
237, right?
Are you kidding?
Nah, yeah.
Stan is lucky.
Not Stan.
Big nothing, come on.
Yeah, it'll be a nothing,
Big nothing.
I swear.
Hang it down.
And so it lives.
Uh, 260, probably almost 279.
Get Coach Woody on.
Getting up there.
229 we got today.
Oh, it is 29.
That's good, the big one.
278. So we're getting
You gotta keep on thinking, I need a new router.
Okay, folks, it's been a fun evening, fun afternoon. Why don't we close it with the four-way treat? Four-way test. Four-way treat. No, it's not. Is it the truth?
Is it
Oh, concern. It will be beneficial to all concerned. And our motto,
Service
serve
above
self.